Should you go to film school in 2025? I went to film school and graduated in 2023. And given the state of the industry right now, the decision is more difficult than ever. It was never an easy decision. It was always kind of a risk, but now it's more difficult than it's ever been before. But if I was remaking that decision I made 5-ish years ago, what would I do? By the end of this video, you'll know my exact thought process and what my answer would be now if I was making that decision again. So right now, things are very slow and very uncertain for many reasons. I live and work in a medium-sized market, so know that my perspective is the perspective of someone in a medium-sized market, not a small market and not a huge market. I don't live in LA or New York, but I also encounter people who travel for this business and work in all sizes of markets. And the consensus is everyone has less work now than they did previously in their careers. It's a very slow year. Last year was also a very slow year. And we're not in the high point of production yet. That usually comes in the summer. So it's unclear whether things are gonna pick up again in the summer or not. So it's very uncertain as a whole, but enough doom and gloom. Let's get down to the real question at hand. I'm personally really glad I went to film school. Before going, I knew I wanted to make images, but I didn't know how to make a career out of that, or what exactly I wanted to do in the film industry, or what any of that looked like at all. I was a naive 18-year-old boy. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what the hell was going on around me. So for me, going to film school was the right choice because it gave me the time and the place to learn about this industry. But I feel like I now know exponentially more than when I started film school and even than when I finished film school. For me, my film school experience was a fairly unique one. Not unique in the sense of the other people I went to school with, but unique in the sense of the grand scheme of everyone who's ever gone. Because I started in 2020, peak of COVID, right? And film being such a collaborative medium, and really one of the main draws to film school is the people and meeting people and working with people, collaborating with people. And a lot of that was not present for my full first year. The collaborative, hands-on curriculum that was being pitched to me when I toured the school I ended up going to was not present. It had all been switched out for making things by yourself, independent, solo filmmaking, out of like necessity and safety and whatnot. Like, I don't blame them for the choices they made with the curriculum, but it sucked. It sucked for me as someone who wanted to go so that I could meet people and work with people and like be on set and learn what you do on set and how any of that works. That stuff was not present for me. And without film school, I might not have found that because it was COVID. Nothing was going on. And I have nothing against solo independent filmmaking. Like, I love that, and I have dear friends who are really good at it, and I love what they make. But it wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to learn how to work with people, and I wanted to learn what I wanted to do through that means. So what happened? I said I'm glad I went, but now I've only talked about bad things. The first year was rough. It was really rough. I didn't know anybody. I'm in a new city, and I had to figure out what the hell was going on around me. And that's all fine, but it was rough. It wasn't what I expected it to be. I expected to be working with people and learning and making things. I couldn't really leave my dorm other than to go to class, but I only had class in person once every 2 weeks. Literally every 2 weeks, I had an in-person class. The rest of my classes were completely online. So I was just in my dorm doing Zoom meetings, and then I'd go and pick up my food that I had to order through my phone. It wasn't a normal cafeteria style dorm food. It was you put in an order and then you go pick up a bag and then you go back to your dorm and eat in your dorm alone because COVID sucked. It was terrible. But eventually people started to figure out what this virus was and that maybe we could actually be around each other a little bit with some precautions, which is great. So I started to meet people because I started having classes in person again. And I started meeting people who went to film school for similar reasons that I went. And then I started collaborating with them and making things with them. And they are some of my closest friends still today. And this is where the most valuable part of film school comes in, is the people. And I don't just mean your peers, but also your instructors. Your instructors are people who have worked in the film industry or are currently still working in the film industry and have just chosen to teach on the side, I think the mantra that those who can't do teach is frankly bullshit. Because if you can't do, then you fucking can't teach. So the people who are teaching you do. And because of that, they can sometimes get you freelance work, which is what happened with me, which was awesome. And through those freelance jobs that I got through instructors, I learned even more than I was in class. And that's invaluable. Additionally, learning from people who are way further in their career than you are is so valuable because you can learn from all of their little mistakes that they've made through the course of their career before you have to make them yourself. And that's not to say you won't still make mistakes. You do. I have. I always make mistakes. Everyone is. That's how you learn. But you can skip a little bit of that. You can skip past the really dumb mistakes that other people have made because you can learn from them and their mistakes. Additionally, the time in school that you have where you don't really need to worry about making money, making a living in this industry, where you can just experiment with how you like to make things, is invaluable as well. Obviously, you can do that outside of school for cheaper, technically. But if you can get good student aid and figure out a way to live throughout school and like take that time to figure out what you like to do, I think that's invaluable. And to do that alongside all of these people that you're meeting who also are all figuring it out all at the same time, you can make some really awesome works that you wouldn't otherwise be doing if you were just living. And there's something to just living as well. You learn a lot through doing that. But there's also the added benefit of if you choose 1 or 2 semesters into film school that this isn't for you, then a lot of those credits can transfer to other majors. You can switch majors to something more stable, more reliable, more like traditional. And then you can figure out a way to make a living like a quote unquote normal person. And that's incredibly valuable to be able to just fall back on that. And anyone who judges you for that is full of shit because this isn't for everyone. And not everyone knows that it's not for them before they try it. And that's what film school is so great for, is trying it. But at this point, you might be asking what I actually learned in film school. And I did learn a lot. A lot of it I learned from my own research on the side, like looking into how to do things for specific projects and whatnot. And a lot of my classes were kind of bullshit. A lot of classes, because of the whole remote work aspect of everything, a lot of classes were just filler fluff that didn't really teach me anything. And that's partially my fault if I didn't take full advantage of those classes. And it's partially just the situation's fault because it's really hard to teach classes online for instructors. It's hard to keep kids engaged with the material when you can't see them and they have their camera off and you're just teaching to a computer, you're just teaching to a camera. It's hard, it's really difficult. And that's okay. But I also did take a lot of classes that I learned a ton in. All of my cinematography courses, they're all taught by a working cinematographer who's doing what I want to do with my life. But he just also happens to be teaching these classes. And through those, I learned all of the little minute physical things that you need to know to be a cinematographer. You learn how to be a grip. You learn how to be an AC through these classes. And to know how to do both of those jobs, it makes you a better cinematographer as well. At least for me. But it was probably the minority, unfortunately. And I'm still working towards my goal of working full-time as a DP today. Like, just because I went to school doesn't mean I could leave school and immediately be a DP. Like, there's a lot of work to be done. I'm still learning. But I think it got me pretty far. And like, my reel currently is way further along than I think it would have been if I didn't go to school, because I wouldn't have had access to the gear that I had in school. I wouldn't have had access to the people who all need their projects shot. It's like this pressure cooker of people who want to make things, all being in one place and able to collaborate with each other. And that is invaluable. It's not something you really find outside of school. You can maybe try to create it or replicate it outside of film school if you are really good at networking and talking to people. But if you're not, it's hard. Like, I'm not. I'm a terrible networker. But if you think you can make those connections in the real world, then do that. That kind of brings me to the industry currently. Things are super uncertain. Nobody really knows what's gonna happen with AI and just the economy as a whole. And then the combination of that means that people are spending less money on media that's being made by human beings, which is what I've spent my whole life learning how to do, unfortunately. But there's less money being spent on commercials and features and TV. So that makes it really hard to make a living out of this currently. And there's a non-zero chance that in 5 years AI completely obliterates everything that I've ever learned and none of it will be valuable anymore. But I don't think that's gonna happen. I'm an optimist. I think people will always wanna watch media that's been created by people, that has soul, that has the human touch. And that's something that AI just doesn't have. No matter how photoreal it gets, it doesn't have a human touch behind it. There will always need to be people making things. And I think if we lose people making things, we lose humanity. We've lost. It's over. But that's why I don't think it's gonna happen, because I think humanity as a whole wants to watch things still. We wanna see things made by humans. The imperfections of things made by humans gives people on the internet something to talk about. It gives me something to talk about. When people make things and when people come together and make things, you get something new. Generative AI does not give anything new. It gives something that's just created from mostly stolen work. I think sometimes when generative AI is made out of images that have been sourced ethically, that's cool, that can be cool, but there's always still a need for the original source material. And there's only one way to do that, and it's through people making things. That is the only way to create new images. And that's what keeps me clutching on to my career choices currently. And I'm so early in my career that it's scary. It's terrifying to know that the entire industry that I've put all of my time into is just teetering on the edge of a cliff that could fall at any moment. But here I am. Whatever, I digress. So do I think you should go to film school in 2025? Frankly, I don't know, because I don't know you. You don't even know you. Maybe you do know you. I don't know. When I was making that decision, I sure as hell didn't know me. So I'm going to assume that you were in the same boat that I was in at that time. I didn't know myself. And school gave me a place to find myself. But it really depends on what type of person you are. If you feel like you have the self-discipline, if you feel like you have the charisma and the extrovertedness to market yourself from nothing and go out there into the world and meet people. If you think you can do all of that on your own without having this like building block that is film school, then do it. I'm not that type of person. I suck at that. I'm terrible. I am so terrible at networking. I'm the worst. And that's just something that I've come to understand. It's something I'm working on. And honestly, you'll probably learn more technically by meeting, like if you meet someone who can get you on set, you will learn way more doing that than you ever will in film school. But it's really intimidating to enter the industry, especially now. No matter how intimidating it is so incredibly rewarding when things go your way. As a cinematographer, the process of pulling an image out of a director's mind and knowing how to work with your crew to make that image appear on a monitor and then pictures up and the director looks at it for the first time and they come to you and they say, this is exactly what was in my mind. That is the most satisfying and fulfilling thing I've ever experienced in my life. And I'm young still, so I haven't experienced everything. But at this moment, for me, that is my favorite thing in the world, is doing that and doing that times 1,000 to make a movie. And then you sit and you wait as a DP. You wait for that film to be done. And then the film is finally done and you go to a screening of it and you get to see people's reactions to your work. It might be a hugely disgusting, egotistical thing, but it's so satisfying to hear people talk about your work and say, wow, that looked great. Or wow, the way this all cuts together because of how it was shot, excellent. The color was lovely. It was lit beautifully. Look at that camera movement. It's like the most fulfilling and awesome thing that I've ever experienced before in my life. I love it. I love it so much. And that's what keeps me hanging on. My addiction to creating images for people. And that's something I found through school. And because of that, I would not trade any of my decisions. I wouldn't redo anything. I'd do everything again, the exact same way I did, because it got me where I am today, and I'm happy, you know? I'm happy with where I am, and I'm excited for the future, no matter how unstable or scary it is. I'm excited to create a living out of this terrible, fucked up industry. But I am also a realist, and if you are too, you need to at least examine very carefully your decision here. You need to talk to people who know you, probably better than yourself, and figure out what is the right choice for you. But at the same time, there is no right choice. You know, whatever choice you make, it'll get you where you're going. You don't know where you're going yet, but whatever that right choice is, eventually you'll know if it works out or not. And I hope it does, because this industry, it can chew you up and spit you out, but it can also be so rewarding. And without it, I don't know what I'd be doing. But I'm here. I'm here for the ride. We'll see what happens. But that being said, even if you make a decision to go to film school, you can always bail. You know, no decision is permanent, at least in these terms I'm talking about here. So if you make a decision and then you decide a year in that you hate it and you don't want to do it, you can change your major, you can drop out, you can go travel the world, do whatever you want. The world is your oyster. You'll figure it out. You will be okay. Best of luck out there. And with that, this is goodbye.